Morning guys, welcome to Why Shy Why. Today I want to go back to Scrum, which is, dear to my heart. And I want to talk about something that really makes developers a little bit wheezy when it comes to Scrum. Traditionally, we've been working a particular way, and this change does make people think wholly differently, and that can hurt both the brain and the budget sometimes. Okay, so you've heard me say multiple times before that implementing Scrum, transforming a team to Scrum, transitioning an organization to Scrum is an incredibly disruptive thing. Yes? And we all know the reason for that is because Scrum tends to have this way of uncovering the dirtiness, the ugliness that happens in an organization, right? And so if you don't have a culture that allows for that, disruption, ugliness, scariness. Okay, but today I want to talk about specific to the development team, specific to the sort of person I am, I guess. Developer for many, many years, really got good understanding of how, N-tier architecture works, got a good understanding of how service-oriented architecture works, and then moving to, this decade, getting an understanding of how microservices work out in the cloud. One of the things, once you've built that sort of repertoire and got that sort of experience, one of the things you realize is that oftentimes we work in tiers when we're coding, right? Let me show you an example. Can we just cue the slide? Okay, and so what we've got here is a three-tier application. Bottom layer is your database. That's where we keep all our data. Middle layer is our business logic. So this is where the business or one of our clients will tell us, listen, Shai, this is a particular instance of a business rule, and we build all the business rules in. And then the top layer is what we call a GUI, or a graphical user interface, also known as a screen or whatever else what our users call it. This is the prettiness. This is what actually helps people use the system. Now, back in the dim darks, what would happen is we would start a project to build the system that we're looking at, and we would start here at the database edge, right? And so we'd get a whole bunch of people that know a lot about databases, and we'd build this database. And then the next step, logically, we'd sort of go to the next step, and we'd build the business layer. And so we'd get a whole bunch of people that what we would call back-end developers and business analysts, and they would all get together and they would build together a business logic layer. And then the last thing in the project would be to get designers in, perhaps, or business analysts again, or someone who has some skill in designing user interfaces, and they would do the top layer. And then once these three things are done, we would go back to the client or go back to our companies and say, here you go, hey presto, it's done. It's now been a year and a half since we talked about this, but we're done. Awesome. Now, a couple of things that are big risks here, right? We've now been spending a year and a half trying to get this thing done. Guys, nobody wants to spend that much, not see a product in the interim, okay? You shouldn't be doing that. Just saying. If you want to argue about it, come and talk to me, really. Happy to have that argument again. What I want to talk about today, guys, though, is that whole, what am I trying to say? The mental model we have in developing in these stages, bottom layer, middle layer, top layer, really has to change when you're in an iterative development environment. And the reason for that is this. We have a need to, in Scrum, in iteration, to flip it around. So now what we're doing is we're working on a sliver of work that cuts through all three layers. And the reason for that is because what we want to be able to do is write a little bit of the database, a little bit of the logic, and a little bit of the interface, and show it to a user or your company or your corporate and say, hey stakeholder, here's a little bit of what we've got. Let's get building. Okay, and that change, that flipping from a horizontal development mental mode to a vertical development mental model is a really big change for developers. And so they need to, we find, at least as consultants of Agile or Scrum, we find that we spend a lot of time trying to get through that. And there's a lot of roadblocks in people's heads because we've been doing this for 15, 20, 25 years, working in this horizontal way, and now all of a sudden we're asking to think vertically. This will take some time to actually distill down, but guys, once you get to this point, the benefits outweigh the costs, and you have to ensure that this sort of practice continues to iterate through your development transformation. All right, guys, that's it for me today. If you want to talk about this, I know this is a little bit more technical and specific to those guys out there that are developers and are having a bit of a brainwave at the moment. Give us a buzz if you want to talk, or if you have any queries, please leave comments or messages or likes if you could. Really appreciate likes and shares because it means that our content then goes out to your communities as well. Happy to help out as much as we possibly can. Again, guys, thank you very much for your time. We'll see you next week.